one is already
it's
in
coming
there.
up.
Surendra had sent me a check
This
copy
is
of that.
aim for Seva cash?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just turn off after. No, no.
Do you need this chair for the?
No, I think we're good.
So we're set to go?
Yes.
So we will continue with our introduction to the fundamentals of meditation, and then switch over to the actual Nididhyasanam, which we will also do.
Sound is not
Oh, really? It's pretty close to my...
So now
Oh, you know what? I have it upside down. Sorry, my fault. Sorry.
we're not using it.
Is it better? A little bit better? No?
I can hear it from there. Video is good now.
Okay. So,
That's too bad.
It's here, not here. This is not screen.
so what I think we will, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So what we will do is to cover the fundamentals of meditation in just a revision on two parts. So the first part would be, you could say, just the preparation for Nididhyasanam. And then the second one would be actually doing some Vedantic meditation. And even the Vedantic meditation, the Nididhyasanam, is not truly Nididhyasanam for our, in the way we do it. In the sense that if for a purist, from a technical standpoint, the Nididhyasanam means something that you're very clear about. You've actually had a vision of that already in your mind, but you lose that vision. And so to recapture it in a very controlled fashion would be truly called Nididhyasanam. But I think that it's fair to say that in many cases we have not covered the clarity of some of those things. And just listening quite doesn't do it. You just have to listen again and again, and suddenly it strikes you and say, yes, this is true, I can see that. And so I think in the final analysis, what I find through a lot of my own practices and reading about it from Swami Maheshanandaji's books and so on, because with Swami Dayanand we never came to this stage. It was really mostly on Shravanam. And it's not as though he didn't know or anything like that. It's just that the opportunity never came up. In the 2.5-year course, we just had very basic some fundamentals. That's why many of the students with Swami Dayanandji took the course more than once. And obviously, I couldn't afford it because of my family and so on and so forth. So I never really was able to reach this level of understanding and clarity until I started to really devote my time to Swami Maheshanandaji's instructions and so on. And then what I find is that it's getting a lot clearer in my mind. What that means is this, really, I'm just going at the very last stage and then working backwards from it. What that means is that in your mind as you do meditation, there comes a time where you can simulate the vision very clearly in your mind. And what that means is that you can see the difference between yourself as the Satyam and the thoughts and sights that you see as mithya. Very clearly. So that is what I would say is the semblance of clarity. But it doesn't last. It doesn't last, because then you start doing things and when it doesn't last, it doesn't mean that it's not true. You already had the feeling that, my goodness, now it's already done. So it's not as though it can revert itself. But that clarity of the mind loses. It is to recapture that clarity of the mind, clarity of the vision, that nididhyasanam is recommended. This is the true use of nididhyasanam. But if you don't have that clarity, if you can't see that I am the Satyam, and everything else that I see is clearly moving, and it is, you can see that viveka, the distinction between Atma and the Anatma. If you have not been able to do that, then the Vedantic meditation is trying to see that also. It is called dhyanam. So in summary, I hope I don't confuse you, even though we have clearly delineated these two segments, which is preparation for meditation, which is what we are doing now, and then we jump over to nididhyasanam. In reality, there's at least 3 segments. You see, this is what I'm saying. What are those 3 segments? Preparation for meditation, dhyanam, and nididhyasana. I think that's my understanding of how, if I see things, will be. So I think that I hope that you have had some clarity. If not, then instead of nididhyasanam, you will see when we do the Vedantic meditation, that will be in terms of dhyanam rather than nididhyasana. So this is where we are going. Let me also turn this on. Should have turned that on before. Okay, so with that, let us proceed along a little bit of the revision from last time, and then proceed on to some new steps, all the about 10 or 11 steps that we will go through. So let's do that. So it's useful to start the meditation with a prayer, because that also frames your mind. What is that sound? Is that from outside?
Downstairs.
Oh, it's downstairs, okay. That's fine. I thought there was a radio on here inside the room. So it's good to start the meditation with a prayer, and that serves several purposes. The most important one is that you need the blessing of Ishvara to make the meditation effective, and also as a sankalpa to the mind, that this is what I'm doing, please stay with me, as we saw last time. So you can just choose some prayer which is helpful to you and then stay with it. In my case, what I find is that I do the 10 Shanti mantras, and I do half of Dakshinamurti Stotram, and the other half I do after the meditation. So that lengthy introduction through a prayer helps me already by focusing my mind and calming it down. So you can choose depending on how much time you have, and to some kind of a prayer that you like, you can do that. Then we saw that the asana is an important thing to take care of, and the elements of asanas are a relaxed posture, and also one that keeps you alert. And in this, I think one thing you could check as part of the asana is we have already gone through the steps of checking the internal tension. But the asana can also be used to check the external tension. External tension means a belt that is too tight, or shoes or something like that. So just to eliminate the external sources of tension would be a good step to do in this in the asana. And then I think one thing to keep in mind is that for most part the asana should be one where you don't need to move it. If you're sitting cross-legged, for example, and you cannot hold that posture for more than a few minutes, then abandon it. If you're comfortable with it, fine. Otherwise, sit on a chair or something, and the idea is that unless you consciously want to move something, like in pranayama, doing the nadi shuddhi, which we will do today, there you do move your hands and press on the nostrils and so on. That is different. That is consciously doing it, deliberately doing it. But if you have to move because of certain external pressure, then that asana needs to be modified. So please keep in mind that really the objective of the asana is to be able to be free of any movement naturally, not forced. Then we saw that it's a very beautiful thing to focus on the sense organ, and the organ of touch is a very good candidate, and just involve the mind, gently involve the mind for focusing on the sense of touch. The feet, the hands on your lap, the fingers and thumbs touching each other, and as we went through last time, the gentlest of the touches, which is your eyelashes. So you can disengage the eyelashes and slowly re-engage them a couple of times. After that, you can now observe the internal state of your body. In the beginning, you can do it systematically, part by part. And later on, just do a quick survey to see where the parts may be storing some tension. So here you're kind of acting as your own masseuse, patiently pausing and helping a particular part of the body that may be tense to relax. Then, having done so, we now observe our prana. This is where we left last class, so let's proceed on this. So the prana, as we saw last time, is where your appreciation of Ishvara is most obvious. So the presence of Ishvara meaning your connection as an individual to the whole. How the cosmic presence of air and oxygen helps you to be alive. It not only gives you the ingredients of life, which is oxygen and air, but provides you with the equipment to process it. you have your mind observe this phenomena, here the in-breath and the outgoing breath cycles should be made about equal in length and perhaps slightly elongated. This simple pranayama means the discipline of breathing, the structure of breathing, practice of breathing can be very helpful. If for some reason your mind is disturbed, it is moving too fast, you can slow it down by doing this. The connection between the mind and the breathing is well established and has been recommended by almost everybody. Here we have gone through, and let's very quickly see a specialty of pranayama, which is called Nadi Shuddhi. So here, as I mentioned before, you will need to consciously move your fingers, your hand, just one hand, in regulating the breathing. So without going into the details, what it simply means is breathing in through one nostril and breathing out through the other nostril, not both, one at a time, and then reversing it such that the nostril that you breathed out from, now you're breathing in from there and breathing out from the one that you had taken in. So let's try to do this. So if you can move your finger and breathe in from the right nostril. So about 5 or 6 seconds, something like this. I'll just do it loudly. So complete these cycles about 8 to 10 times. 8 to 10 complete cycles. If you have a cold and you have an obstruction in the nose, then you cannot do it. You can gently try to overcome the obstruction, but don't force it. And also do it gently, no jerking. So this is a well-known practice which helps in calming your mind down and observing the breath. If you did not do the Nadi Shuddhi, you can simply observe the incoming and the outgoing breath, doing it for a longer time and making it about the same in length. So from here we go to the next step, which is observing your thoughts. So here we will do this in two segments. One is to observe your thoughts in three different segments. One is observe if your thoughts are regarding the past, memories, observation about events, any reactions from it, sense of happiness or regret. So it's useful to segment these three views of your mind as three windows. So the one window is the thoughts regarding the past. The second window is thoughts regarding the present. Like observing the sounds and wondering where it is happening, where it is coming from. Or just thinking about the present. And the third window is the thoughts about the future. Worries, planning. If you do meditation effectively, you will find that you will not have many thoughts. But in moving from a controlled meditation to open-eyed meditation, this way of looking at the mind is very useful. It is very useful because of two reasons, really. One is that if you look at the thoughts, you put a separation between yourself and the thoughts. And the other reason is that in segmenting the type of thoughts that you have, you are being more objective in categorizing where the thoughts are, and therefore much more equipped to deal with them. It's like breaking down the problem into 3 segments. Am I worrying too much about the future? Or am I too preoccupied with what's already past? Another way to look at the thoughts is through japa. Japa meaning some intonation, some saying some mantra or some words that do not have much variation. Even if it has several words to it, it is short and easily repeatable. The logic of japa needs to be pretty clear in our minds, which is this. What we find is that often our thoughts are associated from one frame to the other. Swami Dayanand used to say that in a way it is like a monkey that jumps from one branch of a tree to another branch, and not only that, it jumps from one tree to another tree, even though the second tree or the third tree are totally different, but it just seems to quickly jump from one to the other. You find your thoughts are the same way. You think of a person and you think about what the person said. Your thoughts are now about the meaning of what that person said, your agreement or disagreement with what was said, your supporting logic taking you in some different direction, and so on. In fact, each thought that you pay attention to becomes a karma of some kind, some kriya, some action. And our Shastra says that literally there are infinite number of thoughts that you have. If you were to have a paper and pencil and write down every thought that you have, you will fill many, many pages. You multiply that over your own life, And as the Shastra says, over several lives, it's an infinite cloud of thoughts, all continuous, all interconnected. So the japa is a way to break this chain. It is to make this monkey relatively still. Monkeys can never be completely still, but it's as though you encourage or force it to just stay within an area. This is where a japa either with the help of a set of beads or just mentally doing it yourself is very useful. If you take a set of beads, you can say the name of your Ishtadevata, your favorite god, or just adopt one. So you can take, for example, Ram, 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 Ram. So in doing this japa of a name, what you're doing is to break the habit of this associative thoughts, of jumping from one to another, from one frame to a different frame, because all the frames are the same. So in that sense, it is said the theory of japa is that it allows the practice of making sure your thoughts are under your control. So this japa can also be done without music or with music. With music, you can even have some external music, or you can practice yourself and introduce some elements of a tune to the japa. Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare or you can take some segments of a song and just repeat it on your own. Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari, Jai Jai Ram Krishna Hari, like that. So here you do a japa with music, or you can do a japa without music. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Something like that. So we will complete this next time with all the steps. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So one thing that I mentioned last time, which also bears repeating, is the analogy of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, where the mind is the perhaps the anatma, which is disturbing and interrupting you and so on, whereas you are the Krishna, the consciousness. And please see that you just have to wait it out. I find that to be a very good technique, is to know that the victory is on your side. And you just have to be patient. Just like you are patient with a child, where you say, okay, are you finished crying? Are you done with? And so the child says, no, I've got some more complaints. He says, okay, fine, finish your complaints. Eventually, you know, because the nature of the Atma is peace. And so this is just a disturbance of, in the meantime. So having patience in meditation is a very big thing. It's an important virtue. And have the trust and confidence in yourself. For a while it may not look that way, but I think eventually you will win out. And when you do, it's a battle where you quickly regain your sense of balance. And the meditation, the practice of meditation, the abhyasa, makes it so much easier in the end. It's as though the mind has given up in trying to, it will never completely give up, but it diminishes in its power to disturb you. So it's very, very useful to do that. Okay, so let's go on with the text itself. So let's do a small prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda. Namah Shri Shankarananda. Guru Padam Bhujanmane. Guru Padam Bhujanmane. Savilasa Mahamoha. Savilasa Mahamoha. Graha Grasaika Karmane. Graha Grasaika Karmane. So it's already 8:25. I think we can do 3 verses for. Let's try to go 59, 60, and 61, and then I think next time we will finish it by doing 62, 63, and 64. 65 is just a concluding verse. There's nothing much on that. So I think with this we can pretty much finish the text in today and next time. And then we will do a quick revision of the whole chapter. And by that time we will also do some nididhyasanam or dhyanam, as I mentioned. So that's how it will be. So let's chant the three verses, 59, 60 and 61. Anada vihasansare, anada vihasansare, sanchitah karma kodayah, sanchitah karma kodayah, anena vilayam yanti, anena vilayam yanti, shuddho dharmo vivardhate, shuddho dharmo vivardhate, dharmameghamimam prahuhu, dharmameghamimam prahuhu, samadhim yoga vittamaha, samadhim yoga vittamaha, varsyatyesha yato dharmam, varsyatyesha yato dharmam, no, varsyatyesha yato dharma, varsyatyesha yato dharma, amritadhara sahasrashaha, amritadhara sahasrashaha, amuna vasana jale, amuna vasana jale, nishesham pravilapite, nishesham pravilapite, sanmulonmulite punya, sanmulonmulite punya, papakhe karma sanchaye, papakhe karma sanchaye. So, anadau iha samsare sanchita karma kotayah anena vilayam yanti shuddho dharmo vivardhate. So, these three are related, all three of these verses. So, this one, so let's look at the English translation and then we will connect it all. So, he says, by this samadhi, by this abhyasa of nididhyasanam or dhyanam, the countless results of the actions earned in this beginningless samsara get destroyed and the pure punya grows, is what this verse says. Then, dharma meghamimam prahuhu samadhim yoga vittamaha varshati esha yato dharma amritadhara sahasrashaha. So the experts in yoga vittamaha means the ones who really know the efficacy of yoga. Yoga means the Patanjali's yoga, yama, niyama, etc., all of that. The experts in yoga call this samadhi a cloud of punya because it pours forth countless showers of nectar in the form of punya. We go over into this. So this is number 60. Then 61. Amuna vasana jale nishesham pravilapite samula unmulite punya papa akhe karma sanchaye. So when the web of vasanas is totally destroyed, and when the accumulated results of action called punya and papa are annihilated with their roots, then, in fact, here the 60 and 61 and 62 are connected. But in Swami Maheshanji's commentary, he keeps it separate. So let me see. So he borrows a little bit from 62. He says then when that happens, the vakyas become very effective. Anyway, we'll go into what that all means. So here's the thing. This karma kotayaha means the countless thoughts and karma. That's what I mentioned in the meditation also, because I was aware of what is going to come. So what happens is, this should be seen as vasana jala. means that if we look at it, we are caught in the net of our own thoughts. It's called vasana jala. And I must say that out of all of the acharyas, the one acharya who was most focused on this part was Swami Chinmayananda. He was, in fact, he kind of, he made that a very big part, and it became a point of discussion with Swami Dayanandji, who didn't think this was as important to point out as Swami Chinmayananda made it. So for those of you that have seen the very famous chart where there is Om on the top, and then you have, what is it, OET, PFT? No, BMI, OET, or maybe OET and then PFT. So body, mind, intellect, emotions, etc. So there are 9 points there. So there's a grid of these 9 points. There is Om at the very top, and in between he had a V for vasanas. This is his, so every acharya has some kind of a prakriya, some way to explain what is happening, and that's how he chose. But in doing so, he made it too much about the vasana, the word vasana. And I remember that even now, if you talk to Chinmaya Mission students and so on, they really use this word repeatedly. And Swami Chinmayananda used to say that you are exhausting the vasanas. You are exhausting the vasanas. So that became a kind of like a bogeyman that you have to conquer. Now, there is quite a bit of truth in what he said. So this is really just a point of emphasis more than anything else. So this is exactly what it is. So here the same thing is being talked about. So vasana jala means the leftover impressions from your previous actions. And so really if we imagine our thoughts and our actions as a result of those thoughts, they are all interconnected with what has happened before. And so and we are operating within it. And the vasanas are both positive and negative. They have a component of, so this is both papa and punya, both combined together. But in most cases, you are operating in the negative. Because you have a negative opinion about yourself, you're not looking at yourself completely as you should. And so this distorted picture about yourself is a result of I wouldn't say predominant, but a very prominent component of papa in it. And here Swami Maheshanji makes a very beautiful point. I think he is just articulating what Vidyaranyaji says. So in a way, this is kind like there's a lot of muddy areas, dirty areas around that a little bit of water is not able to clean. What you need, as you know, the most important cleansing agents are either fire or water. Nothing cleans as well as that. And so water is obviously the component of fire. The water is born from fire. And so it also is a beautiful cleansing agent, as fire is. And so the water is inadequate to clean some of the vasanas of your life. But what happens is that to remove this, if you were to practice a meditation which is based on facts, that I am unattached, I am not a karta, which comes from understanding of the Vedantic principles. If you do that, here Swami Vidyaranya says that it is like the rain comes down. You know, we have all experienced this. Supposing you are watering I know that my water bill is very high. And so we have to be very careful in watering these plants and so on and so forth, because we have a very high water bill. And even if the bill was not high, there is paucity of water in most of the area and so on. But when it rains, I mean, this is an amazing thing. I sometimes just sit there on my office and I just look at it. The amount of water which is rains down is amazing. Here you're just measuring it by some few gallons. And you have thousands and thousands of gallons that just pour and washes away all of the dirt and all of the mud from there. So beautiful. That's the analogy that Swami Vidyaranya is making. So he says, and by the way, these words are borrowed from Patanjali's yoga. Patanjali uses these words, dharma megham imam. So we borrow things, beautiful concepts from others, even though Patanjali was not a Advaita Vedantin. But I think just the process of cleansing your mind and making it more cleaner and so on, beautiful concepts. We completely agree with that. Our sadhana chatushtaya is very similar to the Ashtanga yoga. And so we don't have we don't make any criticism of that or at all. It's all the same, really. So even this is the words that, this is all given in the commentary of Swami Maheshananji, that really these are words from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So dharma megham imam prahu samadhim yoga vittamaha. So it says that. You see that? So yoga vittamaha means one who are experts in yoga, means Patanjali and his followers. They all say that with a repeated practice of meditation. Now the difference there is that the Patanjali meditation is not the true meditation based on the Atma Anatma Viveka. That's a different thing. They fall short of that. In our case, meditation, you are just preparing yourself through the same steps that yoga, Vasishtha, Patanjali's yoga also gives. We don't disagree with that. But we go much beyond that. And as I mentioned before, once you're able to see the difference between the Satyam and the Mithya, then what you find is that, really speaking, all these vasanas and so on, you're just gone. Gone. They come back until you make it as into regular practice and your mind is able to stay with it. But even otherwise, even for a short second or a minute when you're able to see this, and the way to understand that is that when you wake up from a dream, then nothing about the dream is left. You may be worried about something, some situation in the dream, or this, that, or the other. Unresolvable. Most of the dreams are all like that. They have no beginning, no end. Just keep on and on. All of a sudden, the dreamer also is falsified. Dream is falsified, dreamer is falsified, the whole thing disappears. This is exactly the promise of Vedanta. And the promise of Vedanta is that, first of all, you cannot remove the thoughts and the jalam, all of the nets of the thoughts, by systematically removing them. You cannot do that. That story, I remember I told you about this Raja who said, listen, I want to have a story which is very pleasant and which doesn't end. And nobody was able to do this. So this guy came over and he says, okay, here's the thing, I've got this big, huge go down of grain, and there's, and there are millions of grains of thing, and there's a bird that comes in and takes one of them out and puts it to her children and comes back with it. So after a while the Raja got very impatient. He says, go on. He says, I've got a huge storage. Everything has to be emptied first before we do this. So the moral of this story is that, in fact, this is a criticism on the karma being able to, exhaust all the previous karmas. So the ritualistic karma, they say that in the in the Vedas, in some of the rituals, so one of the most important ritual is what is called Ashwamedha. Ashwamedha, I don't remember all the details of it, can be done by an extremely rich person who has accumulated a huge kingdom, and he or she gives the whole entire kingdom away to others. It's called Ashwamedha. It's one of the highest punyas that you can get. So here it is said that even by doing Ashwamedha, some things will be left. It's like you're making your dream very pleasant, but you are still in the dream. You haven't woken up. Whereas doing samadhi, which is used to do a recollection of the truth about yourself, is like waking up. It's like you're fluttering your eyes like this, and you're about to, sometimes you're still in half dream, and half of it is you're awake. But as soon as you have become fully awake, there comes a time when you actually have sort of like, you have some in between waking and dreaming, where the dream is still bothering you, but you're trying to wake up, but you're not out of the dream yet. But if through rubbing your eyes or whatever it is, or a call from somebody, telephone ringing, you wake up, the whole thing is gone. So the point here is that, so he says, anadau iha samsare sanchita karma kotayaha anena vilayam yanti shuddha dharma vivardhate. So he says, first of all, the number of karma kotaya. Here Swami Maheshanji makes an interesting point. He says, this is what I was saying in the meditation, that take a paper and pencil and write down your thoughts. And what you will find is it's a combination of fears, criticism of others, to-do lists, whatever it is. And all those are influencing your mind. This is just you would do it for like 5 minutes. If there was some way to record all of your thoughts, you'll say, okay, now I'm thinking of this. Okay, number 2, now I'm thinking of this. Now I'm thinking of this. Because you cannot write it fast enough, so supposing you have to quickly say that, and you now make a list of it. Impossible. So, the Anand used to say that. He says, it's very interesting. You read the autobiographies of people. Autobiography of Indira Gandhi, or autobiography, either one, of Barack Obama, and how my life did. He said, we have a lot of story about our own lives. If you were to write it all down from the very beginning, how it began, then I was a baby, then I became this. And everybody has a huge amount of history, of thoughts, actions, and so on. And they all leave an impression on you. And so you are now a product of your past, really speaking. And the point there is, he says, karma kotaya means that they are infinite. And karma alone cannot, no matter how much punya you do, you cannot erase the elements of papa from your past. As the Jains do. What the Jains do is they have actually a section of their life where even otherwise they are very good. They don't want to do any kind of harming anyone. So they put a gauze in their front of that because some animal might, some small insects might get sucked in or something. And so they are very careful in doing so. How careful can you be? Actually, every time you put your foot down, you're probably killing hundreds of little creatures that you're not even aware of. You cannot do enough karma to really eliminate the papas of all the harming that you do. It's impossible to do. So this is what it says. It's anadau iha samsare sanchitaha karma kotayaha. All of that is gone by an understanding that I am not the karta, which will take a long time for me to figure out, but I have to do it sooner or later. And so what happens is Shuddha dharma vivardhate, that your pure punya will come. Then later on in verse number 61, and so I think we have already done number 60, dharma megham imam prahuhu samadhim yoga vittamaha varshati eta yato dharma amrita dhara sahasrasha. So he says that, so before I finish the thought on the 61, where he says that the joy of discovering the immortality of the self, it's like a rain. Because it's interesting, if we examine our lives, our moments of happiness are very few. True happiness are very few. We take morsels here and there, but in between it is problems, 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 problems. Then for a little while we are able to get slight islands of joy. So in a way it is kind of like we don't have enough water to wash all the problems, all the mud in our lives. But if we do this slowly and become aware that I am the very source of the joy, it is like rain. There is no dearth of joy in your life. It's an amazing kind of a promise given to us. So anyway, that was what was told here. Dharma megham imam prahu samadhim yoga vittama. Then the other point that I didn't finish is that amuna vasana jale nishesham pravilapite samula unmulite punya papa akhe karma sanchaye. So here the point is made that please do not think that you just want to have punya in your life and not papa. It's not as though I want to have punya. And so this is exactly what the karma kandins want. They want to do some good actions. Keep on doing good actions for the others. Here it is said that also is a vasana jala. That also is a fishnet in which you are caught. How do we mean that? because I am, and Swami Tattvavidananda was very famous and very fond of saying this, that the day you don't hanker after outside happiness is the day you will be free. Outside happiness means that this is the Papa Jala we know. Papa Jala means the net of bad actions we know, because it gives you dukkha and you want to get out of it. Somehow I don't want this problem. How do I get out of this? So this is called Papa Jala. So now you go in the other extreme and you go to Punya Jala. Punya Jala means the net of happiness. And how is that a net? Why should that be a net? Because you are thinking that my joy is from external sources. This also is not correct. And both Swami Dayanandji and Swami Maheshananji gives the same example, really, slightly different. So, in one case, supposing you have a handcuff which is all rusted iron, old handcuffs that have been used for prisoners for hundreds of years, and somebody gives you a handcuff. And somebody else has a nice, shiny, golden handcuff. And you say, see, my handcuff is so much better than yours. Both are handcuffs. Both are handcuffs. And Swami Maheshananji gives the example that in one case you have a bird whose cage is all dirty, has never been cleaned, and it's rusty, never been painted. So you have a bird. And then you have another bird who is sitting in a cage which is diamond-studded, golden. That also is a cage. That also is a cage. And he gives this example that supposing you have a Maruti in India, just one of the basic cars, and the other one is you have a Mercedes. And so the fellow is very jealous of the Mercedes. In India, buying a Mercedes is it takes a lot of money to do that. And but then he says that supposing a truck hits you, it doesn't matter whether you are in Maruti or in Mercedes. You are annihilated in both cases, gone completely. And so so the papam and punyam are both jalam. Both contain you into anatma. And so that is the one he says, please be careful. Most people would much more easily escape papam. They'll say, that I will try to be a dharmic person. But if you keep on doing karma through, what will happen is, and of course the other thing is that the karma phala is always is going to be temporary. So the one other problem of the punya jalam is that it won't last. Won't last. So the only way is to either see, am I the very source of joy or not? And that's not easy to discover, but once you do, you're done. Anyway, so those are the comments made in the Vedantic section of this, which we're almost finished. And so here, in repeating it, is as we have done before also, what is meant is that please do the Shravanam and Mananam very carefully, but if it is not yet effective in giving you joy, then you have to either go back to Antakarana Shuddhi, or you have to do Abhyasa, means the repetition of it, and generally a combination of those two. And if you do that, then all the Mahatmas say that is what we need to do. This is what we have to do. It's a fact. You don't see it yet. So create a condition where you see this fact again and again. So with that, our text is almost over. So I'll just say a prayer and then entertain any questions that you may have. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Yeah.
So I think what we are saying is that even in times of trouble or in times of joy, at all times, while we are doing punya, while we might have done some, at all times what we need to see is that all of that is anatma, and
Yes.
all of that is mithya, that I am
Yes.
separate from them,
Absolutely.
and none of that touches me, whether it is the punyam or the papam or the joy or
Precisely.
the happiness.
Absolutely. That's exactly what needs to happen. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because I think Swami TV's point is very well taken, that if all you try to do is to avoid
Right.
difficult situations,
Then you have to go.
then you end up going into, you become kind of like like an alcoholic for good experiences only.
Right.
And this is what we all try to do. We just keep on looking for circumstances where I feel very comfortable. And so that's what samsara is all about. And that also you have to free from it. That's also a dreamlike situation. Yeah.
So in the midst of all the good things in your life, you still say that I'm not any of this. This does not affect me. I'm other than
Precisely.
this.
And so I think that really I find in and we will go through this again and again, what really helps is vichara, is just analysis of my own. And so the elements of vichara, I think we will do this in more detail. In the next version of this course, I will look for some more detailed versions of doing vichara. How do you do it? How the viveka is done and so on. But very briefly, so because the thing is that unless we know how, it just looks like it's just some words that I have to do that I'm not. I think that there was a question about sakshi, that I am always the sakshi. Just by knowing that I am the sakshi is a good beginning, but it's not enough. It's not enough. The implications of being a sakshi is what we have to look into. The implication of sakshi means it never began. It is always there. And so if all of the various points of meditation are understood, then you find that that is what gives you the viveka between yourself as the Satyam and all others. So really what we say is that anything that you experience is mithya. Anything. That has to be seen. In the first instance, the mind doesn't understand that, because you feel that everything that I experience is my life. So what else is there other than that? So starting with that, then introduction is, no, there is something yourself. You are in fact imparting your your presence into the experiences, and you are blessing it. This is where I think the method of looking at the bimba and the pratibimba is very important, or the method of looking at as the akasha and the enclosure of the akasha. All of those things slowly, this is the skill of meditation that one has to develop. But I think your premise is very correct, that really no matter what experiences you are having, either good or bad, you still have to completely do vichara. Who am I? And how am I related to these experiences? And how come I am unaffected by this? How is that possible? How that I am an akarta, abhokta? It requires a lot of skill and a lot of training, a lot of exposure. And so I think the study of Vedanta, as we know, it's not for the weak-hearted. Oh, it's so difficult to achieve. But the results are phenomenal, incredible, really. This last night, a friend of ours died. He was suffering from stomach cancer for a long time, and they are Jains. The whole